The novel opens with a shocking and visceral event that sets the brutal tone for the entire story. Robin Ellacott, arriving at the Denmark Street office she shares with Strike, receives a package addressed to her. Inside, she discovers a woman's severed leg, accompanied by a handwritten note containing lyrics from the Blue Oyster Cult song, Mistress of the Salmon Salt, Quicklime Girl. The horror of the discovery is compounded by its chilling intimacy. The leg is a grotesque echo of Strike's own amputation, and the delivery to Robin signifies that the killer's true target is Strike himself, with Robin being used as a pawn to inflict maximum psychological torment. Strike reacts with a grim certainty. He immediately understands that this is not a random act of violence, but a message from someone he has wronged in the past. He quickly identifies 4 men from his history who are capable of such a depraved act and who harbor a deep-seated grudge against him. These 4 individuals become the central pillars of the investigation, each representing a different facet of the darkness. Strike, confronted in his previous career as an investigator in the Royal Military Police AS Special Investigation Branch, SIB, and in his troubled personal life. The 4 primary suspects are Donald Laying, a former soldier and a sadist of the highest order. Strike was instrumental in convicting Laying for the horrific physical and sexual abuse of his wife and stepdaughter. Laying is characterized by his explosive rage, his meticulous cruelty, and a specific penchant for using knives. His grudge against Strike is straightforward and vengeful. Strike took away his freedom and his property, his family. He is, on the surface, the most likely perpetrator of a crime involving dismemberment. Noel Brockbank, a convicted pedophile whose crimes were uncovered by Strike during his time in the SIB. Brockbank's evil is more insidious and manipulative than Laying's brute force. He is cunning, psychologically abusive, and possesses a chilling ability to rationalize his monstrous actions. His motive for revenge is equally potent, as Strike's investigation led to his public disgrace and imprisonment. Terence Digger Malley, a powerful and ruthless London gangster. Strike's testimony helped to imprison Malley, disrupting his criminal enterprise. Unlike Laying and Brockbank, Malley's violence is typically professional, rather than personal or pathological. The Metropolitan Police, led by Strike's occasional ally D.I. Eric Wardle, initially fixate on Malley as the most logical suspect, believing the act to be a classic gangland intimidation tactic. Strike, however, feels the crime is too bizarre and personally aimed to fit Malley's profile. Jeff Whitaker, Strike's former stepfather, and a washed-up drug-addicted musician. Whitaker was the primary suspect in the death of Strike's beloved, chaotic mother, Leda Strike, who died of a heroin overdose that Strike has always believed was murder. Whitaker represents the most personal and unresolved trauma of Strike's life. He is volatile, unreliable, and harbors a deep resentment for Strike. His inclusion on the list blurs the line between Strike's professional and familial past, making the investigation profoundly uncomfortable for him. With the police focusing on Malley, Strike, and Robin are forced to conduct their own parallel investigation into the other 3 suspects, believing the police are on the wrong track. This decision puts them in direct opposition to the official inquiry and isolates them, forcing them to rely solely on their own resources and instincts. Part 2. The Unraveling of Lives and a Deepening Terror. The central part of Career of Evil is a tense and sprawling investigation that takes Strike and Robin across England, from the gritty streets of London to the small towns of the north. As they delve into the lives and whereabouts of Laying, Brockbank, and Whitaker, the narrative simultaneously explores the fracturing of their own personal lives, largely as a consequence of the killer's escalating campaign of terror. The killer continues to taunt them. He stalks Robin, sending her cryptic and threatening messages on Twitter. His violence escalates with the brutal murder of Kelsey Platt, a troubled teenage girl with a prosthetic leg whose body is found dismembered. The killer's pattern becomes clearer. He is targeting females who, in his warped perception, are flawed, broken, or defiant. The first-person chapters reveal his chilling philosophy of unmaking women, stripping them of their identity and body parts in a perverse ritual of power and control. This external threat places an unbearable strain on Robin's relationship with her fiancé, Matthew Cunliffe. Matthew has always been jealous of Strike and resentful of Robin's dedication to her dangerous job. The severed leg incident pushes him over the edge. His insecurity manifests as controlling behavior. He forbids her from working on the case, tracks her movements, and ultimately hacks into her private emails. This violation of trust leads to a devastating confrontation where Robin discovers that Matthew has been cheating on her with a university friend, Sarah Shadlock, for years, including during the period after Robin's own traumatic past. This revelation is a critical turning point for Robin's character arc. The novel finally reveals in detail the source of her long-held trauma. She was raped as a university student, and the subsequent court case and its aftermath led her to drop out of her psychology degree and abandon her life's ambitions. Matthew's betrayal forces her to confront not only his infidelity, but also the ways in which her past trauma has shaped her present. Her determination to continue the investigation, despite Matthew's wishes and the obvious danger, becomes an act of reclaiming her own agency and identity. She is no longer just Strike's assistant. She is a detective in her own right, driven by a fierce need for justice and a refusal to be a victim. Simultaneously, the investigation forces Strike to confront his own demons. Chasing leads on Whitaker reopens the raw wound of his mother's death. He is flooded with memories of Leda, a vibrant, beautiful, and self-destructive groupie, and the chaotic, often neglectful environment in which he was raised. These memories, once suppressed, prove to be crucial as Strike begins to see connections between the killer's victims and the women from his mother's circle. Part 3. The convergence of clues and a climactic confrontation. As the investigation races towards its conclusion, the pieces of the puzzle begin to fall into place. Strike has a crucial realization. The killer is not just choosing victims at random. The first victim, whose leg was sent to the office, was a woman who had a brief affair with Strike's rock star father, Johnny Rokeby. Kelsey Platt, the murdered teenager, lived near a place Leda Strike once stayed. The killer's targets are women who symbolically represent or are connected to Strike's mother. The Blue Oyster Cult lyrics are not just a random taunt. They are a specific reference to the band Leda followed and a personal link between the killer and Strike's past. With this new understanding, Strike reevaluates his suspects. The police investigation into Malley has gone cold. Brockbank and Whitaker have alibis or simply don't fit the precise psychological profile. The evidence, both physical and psychological, begins to point overwhelmingly in one direction: Donald Lang. Lang's obsession with dismemberment is a twisted mirror of Strike's own amputation. His motive is not simple revenge, but a pathological desire to dismantle Strike's life by destroying the women in it, culminating with Robin, whom he perceives as Strike's most valued part. The climax unfolds in the quiet North Yorkshire town of Masham. After her explosive fight with Matthew, Robin flees London to stay with a friend. Unbeknownst to her, Lang has followed her. He corners her in a small arts and crafts shop, intent on making her his final victim. What follows is not a scene of a helpless damsel in distress, but a testament to Robin's growth and resilience. Drawing on her defensive driving training and her innate quick-wittedness, she fights back ferociously, using her keys as a weapon and managing to temporarily disable him. Meanwhile, Strike, having finally solved the puzzle, is racing north in a desperate attempt to reach her before it's too late. He arrives just as Robin makes her escape from the shop, and a final, brutal confrontation ensues. Strike, despite his physical limitations, manages to subdue the formidable Lang until the police arrive. The killer from his past is finally captured, brought down by the combined efforts of Strike's intellect and Robin's courage. Part 4. Aftermath. a partnership forged, and an ambiguous future. In the aftermath of Lying's capture, the lives of Strike and Robin are irrevocably changed. The media frenzy surrounding the case elevates the profile of their detective agency, but the true transformation is in their relationship. Strike, who has often been protective to the point of being patronizing, finally acknowledges Robin as his equal. In a moment of profound professional and personal significance, he offers her a full, salaried partnership in the agency, complete with a training course to make her a licensed investigator. This is the culmination of Robin's journey throughout the series, a formal recognition of her talent, bravery, and dedication. The resolution of their personal lives, however, is far more complex and bittersweet. Despite Matthew's betrayal and the deep emotional connection she shares with Strike, Robin makes the confounding decision to go through with her wedding. Her motivations are left deliberately ambiguous, perhaps a misguided sense of obligation, a deep-seated fear of abandoning the normal life she had planned, or a stubborn refusal to let trauma dictate her choices. The novel's final, poignant scene takes place at Robin and Matthew's wedding reception. Strike makes a brief, awkward appearance, giving her a wedding gift of a high-end surveillance camera, a present that is both practical for her new role and symbolic of the world she truly belongs to. As he leaves, Robin watches him go, and the book concludes with her standing beside her new husband, while her thoughts and emotional focus are entirely on her partner, Cormoran Strike. This ending solidifies their professional bond, but leaves their personal relationship in a state of tantalizing uncertainty, a painful and unresolved tension that promises to fuel future installments. Career of Evil thus concludes not with a neat resolution, but with the sobering reality that while some monsters can be caught, the complexities of the human heart are far more difficult to untangle.